Hi, my name is Tori, and I'm here to have a very real and raw and honest conversation with the parents. So ever since I came into motherhood and I stepped into the parenting journey, my intentional living aspects just kind of spiraled even more so. So then I ended up in this rabbit hole trail of making sure that I wanted to educate my kids about potential situations that they might end up in. So I like to say that we prepare our kids not because we live in fear, but because we live in love. And what does love do? Love protects. Love equips. Love has hard conversations even when it might feel easier to stay quiet. And it is so important, and as our role as caregivers and parents and people who just love these kids that we are raising, to make sure that we are equipping them to recognize a situation, resist, and report potential abuse. Hopefully before it ever happens, or if they ever end up in a situation where they could have been more prepared for, right? Because the truth is that prevention starts way before the moments of danger actually occur. It starts within the safety of our homes. It starts with the conversations we're having. It starts with the small everyday habits that we are building with our children before they ever end up in a situation where it could be potentially risky. Because the reality is, we don't always get a chance to control the situations that our kids get into. But we can give them the tools to understand how to identify triggers to an unsafe situation, like keeping secrets, isolation, or encouraging them to break rules, trying to do something that makes them feel uncomfortable. We can teach them to identify tricky people in tricky situations, not just stranger danger like a lot of parents will teach, because it's not just strangers. The statistics on the amount of abuse that occurs with people that they actually know, that are very close to them, that they trust, is ridiculously high. And it's important that we teach our kids that their bodies belong to them always, and that they know how to say no, and even when it feels hard to speak up. Because when kids have that kind of language, that kind of support, that kind of confidence, it changes everything. That's why I'm passionate about raising awareness about the subject and sharing some resources that I found that have helped me in my parenting journey to feel empowered and not afraid, and my kids to feel empowered and not afraid. One of my favorite tools is a book series called Safe Hearts, Heart Defenders. So let's jump right into ways that you can get started today. Whether you're a grandparent, parent, friend, you can always help create a safer world for the kids in our lives. Here's a few simple ways you can start. 1, use real words for body parts and safety rules. No shame, no confusion, just clarity and confidence. 2, practice scenarios with your kids. What do you do if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable? Practice helps them feel prepared and more comfortable to have a conversation without it feeling taboo. 3, get some books to help you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The books will come alongside you and you can follow it up with conversations. They do the heavy lifting. You just show up. 4, remind them that you are their safe space, that they can always come to you. But optionally, what I choose to do with my kids is I even teach my kids that there is no person that is exempt from becoming an unsafe or tricky person, even myself. So I tell them that even if mommy, who they believe is a safe adult, who I am a safe adult for them, if I ever ask them to do something inappropriate or puts them in a situation that's unsafe or makes them feel uncomfortable, that they always should need to go to another safe adult in their safety network and notify that person and allow that person to determine whether this was a tricky situation or not. So I don't let my kids believe that any person is exempt of the rule of becoming a tricky person or situation. I think it's up to us to raise a generation of kids that aren't just protected, but they are prepared. I get it. Talking to our kids about boundaries, safety, and tricky people, it's not easy. And so for many of us, we were raised in homes where these conversations just simply didn't exist. And I know what you're saying in your head. I ran into it with a lot of different parents where they think, won't that just scare them? Aren't they too young? They're always with me. There's no way this could apply for me. I don't want them to think bad things will happen to them. I don't want to ruin their innocence. What if I plant ideas in their head? I have an uncomfortable truth to share with you. And this may not be a popular opinion, but these thoughts are fear-based distortions that keep us silent. And that silent is exactly what predators count on. Wow. If we don't equip our children, who will? If we don't have these conversations, who will? Have we ever thought to send our child out to ride a bike for the first time without showing them how a bike works, explaining the rules of the road and the rules of the bike, giving them a helmet for safety, and being alongside them, cheering them on, and helping them when they fall to get back up again? Why? Why? Because without practice, support, it's not only overwhelming, it's unsafe. So how can we ever expect our children to navigate a complex situation of a manipulating adult, an unsafe friend, coercion, safety threats, shame tactics, if they've never been taught that they even exist, the language behind them, how to navigate them, and empowering them to take radical responsibility for their own safety in these various scenarios? The harsh reality is that kids just don't figure it out in the moment. In the face of fear or confusion, most kids will jump into freeze, complying, or just shutting down, especially if it's with somebody that they know or they trust and it's not a stranger. And if they've been taught, like most have in parenting, to obey adults without questioning, that they've been conditioned to hug or kiss family members and friends even when they didn't want to, if they've been corrected when they said no or pulled away, or how do you expect them in a one-on-one situation behind closed doors or away from you to do anything different? What do we expect them to do? Not raising kids that are afraid of the world. In fact, I noticed quite the opposite in the way I've been raising my children and reading these books to them. They feel not fear, they feel empowered for their and other safety. And they know that they can speak up to become a heart defender by calling out tricky people and tricky situations if they ever were to occur. I don't have all of the answers, but I do know that pretending like it could never happen to us is a lie, and it's leaving our children unprepared and not equipped to deal with situations if they ever encounter them. These books are not scary. They're story-based, appropriate, that gently teach our kids red flags and how to listen to their bodies and how to respond. They open door to vital and honest conversations. Think about it. If you're uncomfortable now thinking about having a conversation with your child, just think about how your child would feel not being prepared beforehand, ending up in a situation, and then supposed to be able to come to a safe adult to have a conversation about it. How much harder is it going to be for them if they've never had a safe and honest space to talk about these types of things at all? Imagine how it would feel for them if they already had a safe container and a safe adult that was engaging in these types of conversations with them beforehand, and that they are equipped to know that you're not afraid to have these conversations, to know that they're allowed to come to you about anything, that they're not going to be shamed, blamed, or dismissed. That kind of foundation doesn't happen by accident. It happens on purpose and intentionally. I'm very passionate about this if you can't tell. But if we avoid the conversation because it makes us uncomfortable and they are never exposed to the language, the tools, the stories, and the what-if scenarios, they find themselves in the situation, they're going to feel ashamed, guilty, frozen, and unsure of what to do. They're not going to know, especially if that person is somebody that they know and trust. Our kids don't need a perfect script. They just need a safe place to be heard, to have the conversation, to ask questions, and to be coached. That place is us, parents. And it starts with you, and it starts with me, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are books and tools to educate yourself on how to handle these conversations. Check another video because I'm out of time.